What's going on, everybody? This is Randall Arielle, the founder of HBCU Post and host of HBCU Post Radio, in the building for another special edition of the show once a day, where we are recapping week 5 of the HBCU football season as we move into homecoming season. Homecoming season has actually started this week for several HBCUs around the nation, and the football is starting to get really interesting. I have Arielle Kilgore in the building. How you doing today, Arielle?
Hello, Randall. My voice is gone. It's been a great football week. My Falcons beat the Saints. My picks are looking good. A&T still is A&T. We're working on it, but so I was on a roll, and then I thought about it. I was just like, we did just lose to South Carolina State, 25-45. So
Yeah, it ain't y'all did, and listen, that chin is buried, man. I'm telling you, chin is buried something else.
listen, Chin is buried on a prayer, and unbelievable. Whatever he's been praying, he's on Sierra's prayer. Whatever they've been talking about, that's what I need. I mean, the A&T had plenty of times to come back. They threw 2 interceptions. There was a turnover. There was a fumble. I don't understand how we lost that game besides just sloppy playing. But I mean, shout out to South Carolina. You guys kept my pick running, so you know what? I can't be too mad.
Yeah,
Cannot be too mad.
you can't beat some out. I'm telling you what Chansbury prayed for. Pray for increase. Okay, that's what he prayed for. You know what I'm saying?
Increase the touchdowns, increase the territory and the time on the field, God. That was the prayer.
I'm telling you, like man, Chinsbury and Chinsbury and the Bulldogs increased time of possession, boy. I'll tell you that much. That's what they did. Like, cause that was increase the points to see if all the lights on the scoreboard work. Okay, I'll tell you that much. But Arielle, your game of the week was North Carolina Central versus Norfolk State. North Carolina Central is continuing the role, and they look amazing. Honestly, I think that at this current moment, before we really get into conference play, they're probably the Celebration Bowl favorite out the MEAC. But what do you think about the game, or your game of the week?
I mean, even with South Carolina State and A&T not being in their conference, we still have a couple of teams to look out for. Howard's starting to dwindle a little bit, but South Carolina State proving that they could be a contender when it does come to the Celebration Bowl, as most people should know. And if you don't, the MEAC doesn't have playoffs. We don't have that big of a teams. So whoever is deciding in that top factor, like I said, it's going to come down to those last 3 weeks when they play each other, where it be North Carolina Central against South Carolina State, and then you had that Howard and Central game. And the reason why Howard was able to topple that one year was only because Central had lost to them. So we won't really see who's going, but I can't agree with you. Central is looking really, really good. And a new player coming out to this spotlight that we really have been kind of iffy on, but I think he's finally found his stance, is Walker Harris. 4 touchdowns out of 4 touchdowns, led Central into a 14-0 first quarter, kept racking up the points, something that Norfolk State just couldn't handle. And we said this last week, when it comes to Jalen Daniels, he is a more diverse quarterback to me. He is a dual threat. He can run, he can pass. If he needs to, he knows where to go, and he has a little bit more football intelligence than Walker Harris. But I think Walker Harris and them surprisingly dominating in the air game besides rushing is absolutely impeccable. When you can use Walker Harris's arm, he is somewhat of a good runner. He's not really well acquainted with trying to move out the pocket, but if you can get him standing still and at least give him 2 to 3 seconds to pass, he's going to go down the field on you, and that's something that you don't want Walker Harris to do. A lot of people love a dual threat quarterback, but when you get a quarterback that can pass and can make open plays like Walker Harris did against Norfolk State, those are the kind of things that wins you games and that leads you back into a Celebration Bowl. So we saw a lot of that for him, also going 19 out of 25, 245 yards. Initiating Taylor and also getting in Quick, who had 2 touchdowns himself. This was just a game that Norfolk State just couldn't handle. And I think one of the things that they had a lot of problems on was applying pressure also to Walker Harris. That pocket was just so clean, and the line up front didn't allow anything through. There was a little pressure at times when it did come into the third quarter, just Norfolk tried to make a comeback, but Walker Harris was able to shake that off. And to me, this is not, I mean, besides it being a 37-10 final score, this is more impressive for Central because now they're in a groove, especially going to Campbell next week, knowing that they lost that in the beginning of the first couple games. Now I think they're more centralized. They know what Walker Harris is capable of. They know how to protect him, and they know what he's comfortable with, so that when they do go into this Campbell game next week, it's looking really good. But I would say against Campbell, they might want to initiate the running game. It wasn't a lot going into here. It was only 188 rushing yards compared to what Norfolk State do to their 159. But I don't think that's bad when you're playing a team that's not as well equipped like Norfolk State. But congratulations to Central. They've been on a roll, and I'm really excited to see this progression that Walker Harris has. I know it's not going to be everything that they will miss and the quarterback that we love and know, but I think he may be the answer now to what Central is trying to prove.
Yeah, and I think they're proving a lot. I mean, they're beating teams down, like they are trying to get back to where they were in 2022. And I think that they're on a great pathway. And I thought that was an amazing breakdown for sure. And it's going to get interesting for you in the MEAC area. I know it hadn't really been all that, ain't been all that interesting. They've been playing out of conference. They got a couple, games in conference that have occurred. But listen, it's going to get really interesting because my game of the week was very interesting. All right. So my game of the week. I didn't expect you to do that reaction. You're like, oh, bro.
Like, I mean, just how many times can you just not like call a team to win? Like you know what? I kind of miss picking games in the SWAC, but I know I'm MEAC down. But I'm so tired of you having all the good games.
But to be fair, we got this one wrong because we thought Grambling would win. So this is the one we got wrong.
Okay.
Yeah, this is one we got wrong. But but my game of the week was Grambling versus Prairie View. Listen, it came on during the Georgia-Alabama game. I was expecting this to be over by halftime. I'm like, Grambling, run the score up. Miles Crowley, do what you do because we got other things to attend to, okay, on this Saturday evening, okay? That didn't happen. Prairie View came out swinging. They fought back into this game. They looked amazing. Grambling really was looking good to start out the game. They hopped out to a lead at halftime. Third quarter, it seemed like, Prairie View was trying to come back, but they weren't really able to make it happen. But Grambling sort of sputtered as far as their offense. But then things started to get cooking in that fourth quarter. Grambling was leading 17-10. But then you have Prairie View scores 14 points in the quarter. Grambling did have a touchdown. And the thing about it is Prairie View actually got the lead. Prairie View was leading 24-17. And I was like, yo, I wanted the game to end a little bit early so I could see this classic Georgia-Alabama game, but not like this, okay? Like, I wanted to be a win for Grambling because that's who I picked in our HBCU Post Radio quick picks. But Grambling managed to get it back. You had Miles Crowley, who stepped up in a big way. He finished 29 for 48, 286 yards, 2 touchdowns, but 2 interceptions. We'll talk about that in a second. He threw a 38-yard pass to Marquise Harris that he grabbed on the 9-yard line. It was a little bit, towards the end of the game, we're trying to see what happens, trying to orchestrate this comeback. And then Miles Crowley hit Jalen Johnson for a 12-yard score, a 12-yard touchdown with 38 seconds left in the game. And here's the thing that's the crazy part about this, Arielle, for me, because you got to watch the game. Like, we watch these games. A lot of sports fans, they'll have prognostications, they'll have thoughts, but they don't actually watch the games. If I told you, looking at the box score, that a team that threw, and we're talking about Prairie View, for 185 yards and 1 touchdown on 29 attempts, and only rushed for a net of 118 yards because they rushed for more, but they lost a lot of yards. They only rushed for 118 yards, net yards, right? That's the team that won. And the team that lost threw for nearly 300 yards, and they only had 18 yards less rushing at 100 yards because they lost a lot of yards as well in the run game. Who do you think will win that game? Because I would say Grambling's going to win that game. This is a passing game. This is a passing league. Miles Crowley is arguably the best quarterback in the SWAC. Clearly, Grambling wins this game because that tells me Prairie View can't get their offense going. But sports is weird like this. Like, sports is weird. Arielle, you know this. Like, we watch the NFL but sort of weird. Basketball be weird sometimes. Like, but football, college football is weird this way. Because how did Prairie View win this game? Now, they showed resilience, and I'm very proud of them for doing that. But it's because of the overtime. 5 overtimes. Like Grambling and Prairie View couldn't really get it together because they were tired. Listen, it's the State Fair Classic, one of the biggest classics in HBCU life. It's turn out there, it's lit out there, everybody watching, 50,000 plus people are there. Like the game is rugged, it's getting close. So, I mean, 5 overtimes, anybody could have won. But it just seemed like as the overtimes were going and the drives were stalling, it just seemed like no one was going to win this game. I thought they'd still be playing right now. But ultimately, Prairie View got a dive up the middle, got the touchdown, game over. To be honest, to me, this was an amazing game, a classic game. And this is one of the reasons why I'm very happy we're in the streaming age, because I always say this. I know this is the State Fair Classic. Like this was the 2000. This game would probably be on BET somewhere, right? But I'm so grateful that we're in a streaming era where we do have access to these games, and the access to these games most of the time, especially for Division I, are plentiful because it might not be on ESPN, it might not be on ABC or NBC, right? But it's on ESPN Plus. We have HBCU Go now. You know, we have other places where we can see these games. So I'm glad that this was streamed because it was an amazing experience to watch it, because I could not have told you who would have won. I thought Grambling was going to win, but in those moments when you're at that 4th overtime, you throw all the prognostication out because like it becomes like asinine. Like everything you thought about Miles Crowley being the best quarterback, Mickey Joseph building a great resume for himself in the SWAC, you throw all of that out because it's like it's 4 overtimes. We're not talking about game plan and strategy necessarily. We're talking about endurance at this point because human beings get tired. This ain't a video game. And even in video games, the video game characters get tired. I can't run LeBron James 48 minutes. I can't have Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson out there in Madden getting sacked 15 times because they ain't going to be able to throw it. So even like in video games, you get tired. Like the players get tired in the game. So these are human beings. So you throw the like the pregame prognostication out the window. You throw all that out the window, and it's just who is going to pull through. And Prairie View did. But the thing about it is, with this now being a game of endurance after regulation ended and it went the distance, 5 overtimes, I don't really think that this game really tells me anything about Prairie View or Grambling. It was a great game. It was a classic, but I don't think it tells me anything because I think that Grambling played well. Miles Crowley has to make sure he doesn't turn the ball over because his 2 turnovers turned into 2 touchdowns that helped Prairie View ultimately retain the lead or get the lead. And then, of course, Miles Crowley helped them get back in the game. But I think Grambling will still be fine in the SWAC West. And then for Prairie View, there still were some issues that they need to address. So, I mean, I don't really see like, oh, man, they beat Grambling. Oh, they're the ones. They're making the SWAC championship. I still think Grambling's making it. Like, I didn't see anything in that game that would make me change my mind. Now, I know Mickey Joseph saw some things, because Mickey Joseph says that he wants to try some different things out on offense because he wants to give Miles Crowley more opportunities in the pocket to make things happen. So he's looking at, like the pass protection, trying to give him more time to make things happen. He's looking at bringing in some RPOs and different things like that to get the pass game going. But in general, for me, just watching that game, I think Grambling will be fine. I mean, yeah, you get better. You adjust week to week. You adjust off a win. You definitely adjust off a loss. But I think that Grambling is still going to pull through, and they're going to make it to the SWAC championship, and they're going to win the SWAC West division. But only thing I will say, this is the only thing I will say just to conclude this. I think that I am more scared now that they'll get caught by somebody. I'm more scared now. I'm looking at that Alcorn game. Alcorn has struggled this year. I'm looking at the Alcorn game like, I don't know. Because if it gets close, I don't know. I'm looking at that Bayou Classic. I want to see Southern's offense, see if they do better. But I'm like, I don't know. Will Southern catch me in the Bayou Classic? Like, will they get another loss in the West? Because this is a game, this is a divisional game. Yeah, it was a classic, it was State Fair Classic, but this is a divisional game for them, so this game gonna count. So that's the thing for me. Like, I just really wonder, like, is someone gonna catch them? But I think that in 2 or 3 weeks, as we move towards November, I think Grambling's going to be looking just fine, and they're going to be a well-oiled machine. And this game didn't really tell me much, but I think Prairie did an amazing job. Shout out to both teams for giving us a classic game that really the football world was talking about, because even though Georgia and Alabama was going on, they were talking about Grambling versus Prairie View. And for HBCU football, for all of us, we talk about the game, but we want our student athletes to get that exposure. So I think that was an amazing thing. But honestly, I want to see what happens next, because I think, to me, it doesn't say a lot about what these teams are going to be doing moving forward.
Well, I mean, in some aspects, I'm going to have to disagree with you. I think Prairie View amounting to this much pressure against that Grambling gives you. Grambling is a really tough team defensively as well. And when you have a quarterback like Miles Crawley, I mean, anything can go. But to stay in this game, to win in overtime, and to capitalize off of the things that Grambling was letting slip when it came to interceptions, when it came to fumbling the ball, when it came to that last defensive holding call in overtime that led them to the 1 yard line to push through. Those are the kind of things that you have to take advantage of. And I'm proud of Prairie View for that. And I think they did really good. Not necessarily they will probably carry this momentum, a tougher momentum, into the next games that they play. I don't know if they will be winnable games for Prairie View, but I think this game in particular, going against a team that is absolutely better than you and has a better statue than you, then yes, I think you should take this as a moral victory, as you like to say, but also as a momentum builder to go into your next games and maybe shake some things up in a bit, just like how the MEAC is being shaken up right now of who could really be at the top. Now, for Grambling, and some of this may be controversial, what happens in the game matters. What happens during regular regulation, yes, we don't want any fumbles. We don't want to turnover or downs. We don't want any loss of downs. We don't want to be sacked. But I think Grambling's biggest mistakes came into overtime. And that's one of the things when they play into these games next week, if they their next games, I have Alcorn State and then you have Arkansas and Plymouth. To me, Arkansas and Plymouth is just a winnable game. That's just up in the air. That's a toss-up game. Hey, we're going to get our confidence back. But you play Alcorn into overtime like that, and you see this Grambling game where they gave them that defensive call. They couldn't score. Both of these teams couldn't make their extra points, and both of these teams couldn't make it down the field in time to end up into a fifth overtime game. If you have these little things where Grambling is the better team to shut out this game, and they're showing difficulties, they're showing lack of skill, they're showing that we don't have control over the ball. Those are the kinds of scary things that if Grambling gets on enough pressure by a team that's lesser than them, that they may not be able to come out swinging in the SWAC. And those kind of discrepancies, anybody can see. FAMU can see. Alcorn can see. Any other team that they play for the rest of the season can see. So I think this is a little scary for Grambling. I think if there's not too much diversity of what Miles Crawley can do, if you think that in this game we were the better team, but now I'm letting pressure get to me, now I'm letting Prairie View, who doesn't have a great front line, who doesn't have a great pass rush, get to me, then these teams that aren't on my level can defeat me and they can cost my position. So I think there's a lot of things that Grambling needs to take away, especially in overtime, because overtime is really where you prove, a lot of teams see this, NFL teams see this, other college teams see this. Overtime is really where you really prove who you are, what you can do, and those kind of backbone pillars that the coaches and the rest of the team has instilled. If these kind of mess ups can happen with Grambling, I'm a little scared for what Alcorn State can do to them and what this game really shows, that Grambling can be weaker. And if we pinpoint on certain things, if we pinpoint on certain players, then we can make them fall. So I think this was a decisive game between Prairie View and Grambling. Prairie View with a really great win, with a really great comeback, showing that maybe they can compete next week. And Grambling with a lot of skill deficiencies that they need to work on.
So I feel exactly where you're coming from, but the only thing is that for me with the overtime game, or overtime period, the 5 overtimes, is I just think it was an endurance thing. I think even when you get to that penalty that ultimately put Prairie View in position to win the game, I mean, we always get on, the players by the penalties. Normally it's discipline. I just honestly think it's just the mentality of like, man, I'm tired. Like, this is 5 overtimes. I'm trying to win this game. I don't even think that was a discipline thing. I just think that that's something that happens when you're trying to give your all to the game. And it's like, we're 5 overtimes in. Like, we've almost essentially played like 2 games almost, you know what I'm saying? Or a game and a half at this point. So I think that ultimately Grambling ran out of gas. I think Prairie View did too, but I think that penalty put them in position to win and to score. But for me, looking at what Grambling, that schedule that Grambling has moving forward, I am a little bit nervous about Alcorn. I am, to be honest. Texas Southern, I'm not really that nervous, but I'm not really nervous about Southern either. But I just think that they're going to get better. I think they have the coach that knows what needs to be done, that's going to change the game plan, that's going to make adjustments. I think you still have Miles Crowley. He's healthy. He had a good game outside of the turnovers. He had a good game, and he was able to get them back in the game, because that game should not have gone to 5 overtimes, because you throw 2 interceptions in that fourth quarter that puts Prairie View in position to win. We shouldn't have had 5 overtimes. But the reason why we even in that position to get to overtime was because Miles Crowley said, "Hey, I made a mistake. Let me get that back, team. Let me get that back, coach." And he got it back. He was able to make it happen using his skill and his talent. So for me, I didn't see anything that makes me think in the SWAC West that they're going to have any problem in the SWAC West. Now, this is the SWAC East, and you have FAMU. You have Jackson State. You even have like an Alabama A&M, or even an Alabama State, where like we have our problems with their offense, but we know their defense is something else. Even though they lost a couple key defenders, the Mikey Victors of the world, and those other key defenders on the team in the previous years, they still have a pretty good defense. And also their offensive line has been holding up because it's been opening up a lot of run lanes for them. So even Alabama State is a tough out when we're looking at the SWAC East, but they're in the SWAC West. I don't trust Southern. Not right now. I definitely don't trust Alcorn right now. They're not at their best. I think they will ultimately be at their best in future years, but I don't think they're at their best right now. I don't think Prairie View. I think Prairie View could probably look their way into the SWAC championship as they've done in previous years, but I don't think that ultimately they're going to be standing there at the end of the year. I honestly believe it's still going to be Grambling. I think that Grambling is probably going to be like fodder for FAMU. Like they're probably going to be the team that faces FAMU, and then FAMU makes it back to the Celebration Bowl. But there's nothing for me that tells me, oh, they're going to be in trouble. Because all it is adjustments, adjust that game plan. Like Coach Joseph said, adjust the protections for Miles Crowley. And really, Miles Crowley just has to cut down on those turnovers. He has 4 turnovers on the year and 2 in the last game. Cut down on those turnovers, play smart football, get it back. And I think they will.
Hey, man, you know better than me, you know. Listen, it is what it is. Hopefully they have better luck going into these next couple games. And I agree, you just have to watch it on these turnovers. But like I said, he did, like you say, he did his job. He brought them back. But what really matters is when it comes out to the line, yes, your endurance, you may be tired, but you are the better team. And it shouldn't have been back and forth. It shouldn't have been missed extra points. It should have never been missed field goals. It should never got to 5 overtimes, though. And Grambling is a more in-depth team. But we learn from our mistakes. Hopefully Alcorn doesn't shake them up too bad, because if they lose to Alcorn, I feel like this can start to place the SWAC West in what we might be seeing going into November.
Yeah, I definitely think so. But I think this game, if it does come down to a situation where Grambling doesn't make it, I think this game is going to really matter. And of course it will, because it's a divisional game. But I think if Grambling doesn't make it, to me, as of right now, I think that Prairie View makes it. And I know that when we make these proclamations and these predictions, people are like, oh, you were wrong, XYZ. But how I look at it, I've said this before, how I look at it when it comes to predictions is that I am only judging the game in my predictions and thoughts based on what we have. You know what I mean? Like I based on the information that we have, based on the tape that we have, based on the streams that we have, based on the players on that roster, based on the storylines going into these weeks. Right now, I just think that Grambling has it, but it could change. I'm not saying it will. I'm not saying it won't. If I was psychic, I would think of the lottery numbers. Oh, I would. Oh, I would. If I was psychic, I would think about what is my life going to look like next year. Oh, and I would love to see that. But I'm not. I can only go on the numbers that we have. I can go on the data, the numbers, the data, the game tape, who these players are, what I believe of their ability, and also the narratives going in. And I believe that as of right now, I just think that Grambling they ain't got nothing to worry about. But Prairie View very well could be what they could be worried about going into the end of this season. If Prairie View continues to rack up some SWAC West wins, they and then from there we see a Grambling falters a bit, and then Prairie View might be back in that SWAC championship. And probably FAMU gets back. Let's be for real. Probably FAMU gets back in that scenario. Let's be 100% honest. But Arielle, any final thoughts about this game?
Grambling, don't disappoint us, please. Listen, we're getting into the peak of when these games are starting to matter, and any team, as we can see, can fall. So it's anybody's game, but this should be Grambling season. Nothing else should falter after this.
Right. I feel that. So let's get into our games of the week. So Arielle, what is your game of the week?
Well, we're going back to a good old classic, a team that came in a couple years ago that we were just like, who was this? And started knocking HBCUs left to right, except for a couple of teams. North Carolina Central and Campbell, I think, is going to be a great game for Walker Harris now to really test his quarterback ability. When we saw him play against Elon, which I misspoke earlier, they did play Elon earlier this year and not Campbell. We saw that he was unsure about his position, unsure how he wanted to run his offense and how he wanted to play. But now I think Walker Harris is actually one of those factors that can determine if they win against Campbell or not, because Campbell has a really great quarterback. Masco Jr. is 77 out of 117 this season, 1,124 yards, 2 touchdowns, only 2 interceptions compared to Walker Harris, 3 interceptions. But what we're starting to see out of Walker Harris is his accuracy, how much arm strength that he really has. And I think that's one thing that you do have to have against Campbell. Campbell is going to try to charge you, and they really have great player coverage when it comes to playing that man-on-man. But I think Central has some of those looks where they can confuse different players, and then you have that run game. You got 2 really, really good running backs on your team, so you can switch up the plays anytime you want. But now, since Walker Harris is more developed, he's more serene, he's more sound in how he wants to play and the style that he likes to play, you have a more confident quarterback. So I think we're going to have a really close, and if not close, maybe a 2-point game between Campbell and Central. But I'm really excited to see how Walker Harris plays with Campbell, because Campbell is a little bit like Elon, less dynamic of a style, but they still have really, really good players on their team. So I think this would be a great test going into what Central may look like at the end of the season, and I can't wait for them to play.
And I assume you're picking North Carolina Central?
I'm definitely picking Central. I'm willing to risk my picks this week. Certain games are willing to risk my picks, but I'm very proud of the quarterback that Walker Harris is developing into, and some of the kind of the critiques. And his coach talks a lot after their press conference of how he is willing to listen, how he's willing to be molded into certain styles and what feels comfortable for him. And so now that he is more centered and how he wants to play the game, the confidence that the team has in him, that the coach has in him, is starting to spew out into the field. So I'm really excited to see him play and hopefully lead Central into another championship.
I'm picking North Carolina Central as well in this game. And really, I'm going to tell you why I'm picking them. I have a lot of faith in North Carolina Central. I believe they're rounding into midseason form as midseason has come about. But Delaware State played a really close game against Campbell, and they honestly could have won that game this past weekend. And Delaware State's been looking really good. We gotta give credit to Delaware State, because Delaware State is sort of one of those teams that the past few years you're like, hey, easy dub, easy win, moving on. But Delaware State, ever since they played Hawaii, because they look really great against Hawaii, is like, especially in that first half, then sort of Hawaii sort of took off on them. But Delaware State's been looking good. But Campbell traditionally has been good. Even with the losses that they have in the positions where a couple players with Campbell enter the transfer portal, but Campbell looked beatable on Saturday. And that's Delaware State. North Carolina Central has been looking dominant. A good win over Alabama State. That was week 1. You had the lightning delay. Then, ultimately you lose to Elon, but then, you play on North Carolina A&T, your rival, beat North Carolina A&T down, just saying, beat them down. Then you go and you play Norfolk, you beat Norfolk down, you play well against North Carolina. You know what I mean? So, like, for me, I just believe that now you have a Trey Oliver that's instilling confidence to his guys. So I think that ultimately they're going to win this game. I think it could be another classic like it was last year. Hopefully it doesn't go in that same fashion because we want North Carolina Central to win, because how North Carolina Central won that game was improbable. Like, that was a crazy win. Like, that was wild. But I do think that North Carolina Central will win this game. And like you said, I'm willing to risk my pick on it as well, because I don't like being wrong at all. I'd be like, man, I'd be upset. I really was wrong. You know, I be thinking I'm watching the vice presidential debate. I'm like, I was wrong about that game. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I gotta do better. You know what I'm saying? So hopefully we are right about that. North Carolina Central, don't let us down. But my game of the week is FAMU versus Alabama State. It's homecoming season. It's Alabama State's homecoming. I have not been the biggest fan of how Coach Eddie Robinson Jr. has been running the team. Of course, we know Andrew Body is out for the year. I was very excited about the dynamic that Andrew Body would bring to that team, which I thought was on the precipice of greatness, because I thought that Eddie Robinson Jr. and his coaching staff, they know how to coach a defense, and I believe that they were just a quarterback away from really winning and challenging FAMU, because even last year with Willie Simmons, that Celebration Bowl championship winning team, they almost got him. But they just didn't have the offense, but the defense was certainly there. So I thought that this year, Alabama State would be a Celebration Bowl contender and possibly win the SWAC to make it to the Celebration Bowl. But of course, my thoughts and opinions have changed on that. But Alabama State's okay. I mean, they're committed to not really passing the ball. I mean, they're committed to running the ball. And I mean, it works. I mean, against teams that might not be in the same tier of that same caliber. I mean, they beat Bethune-Cookman, although it was narrow. They beat Bethune-Cookman. I mean, you look at them. We thought Miles would get them because Miles has been traditionally dominant in the SIAC, and then Miles got them last year. They beat Miles, and they were running the ball. Like, they've not been throwing the ball around the yard like that. They weren't throwing it with Andrew Body, and we thought that was sort of crazy. So now is their test. You play a FAMU that, number one, and of course, we know that their bye week was not of their own volition. We know that their bye week was an excruciating circumstance because of the devastation of Hurricane Helene, right? They had another bye week because they didn't get a chance to play Alabama A&M. So they've had rest. They've had time to get their mind together. I know that going to play at Alabama State and going to play on that field and then it's homecoming, I know that's going to be a raucous environment, but I still believe that FAMU is going to ultimately come in there and win that game because they are the better team. I believe you have a Daniel Richardson who is honestly between him and Miles Crowley for the best quarterback in the conference. You have a Coach Cozy, who is an amazing coach, and he's been able to pull this team together and keep that same championship pedigree and championship energy for FAMU. And I love his game preparation. His game preparation, seeing videos of those practices, like, he's doing his thing when it comes to that. I honestly believe that FAMU, from that offense, the defense has been looking a little bit better. I think that they're going to beat Alabama State because it's going to get to a point when you play a team like FAMU, in my opinion, you can't just run the ball. They're going to figure that out. They're going to stuff the box. They're going to figure out how to stop the run. And I know the Alabama State's offensive line has been looking great, and that's amazing. But I just don't believe, for me, I don't believe that you can beat a championship caliber team with a quarterback like Daniel Richardson exclusively running the ball 40, 50 times, only passing 20, 22, 23 times, maybe even less than that. I just don't believe that. Now, I know that within that same defensive scheme, with that same system, you want your defense to step up, to maybe get interceptions, to maybe get fumbles, to maybe hold FAMU to not score as many points as they're used to, right? But to me, I just don't trust Alabama State with their philosophy will get the job done. But it's homecoming for them. Shout out to them. I'm pretty sure it's going to be lit. Listen, the homecoming concert is out, so the students going to be happy regardless. All right. So it's going to be lit. Glow coming. Yeah, Glow. You know what I'm saying? So they're going to be fine. You know, if they lose, it's going to be fine. Okay. But I think FAMU is going to ultimately win, and they're going to seize that victory as they build their divisional wins to ultimately become the SWAC East champion. and then go to the SWAC championship, then probably go to Celebration Bowl again in Atlanta in December.
Well, I mean, I only see one downside for Florida A&M, and like you said, it's this just them not being on the field, them not having to practice or being able to get their feet wet just against this team. Because honestly, if Alabama State did have Andrew Body, we are looking at a completely different game, and probably a game that they would have released all the pressure on Florida A&M, and A&M just not being ready for the different looks that Andrew Body specifically gives, and maybe would have just played at a quarterback position. We're looking at a Taysom Hill of all Alabama State like runs, like if Alabama State did still have an Andrew Body, but they don't. And they don't have as many weapons, and they only stick to the two same guys when they do play against these teams. So you only have Kinsey and you only have Greg. When we look at Florida A&M, we're looking at multiple weapons, including your quarterback. So I don't think this is the game that Eddie Robinson Jr. can actually outcoach Florida A&M on. I think Florida A&M has a fantastic coach and a fantastic team that they'll be grounded when they do go into Alabama State territory, regardless if it's homecoming or not. Everybody believes in homecoming magic. Sometimes that magic just isn't on the field, is at the tailgate, is at the concert, is everywhere else but in the players, because we're not focused on the hoopla and the rah-rah that is going on outside. So without Andrew Body, yes, Florida A&M is looking at a winnable game, and Alabama State has to realize that they aren't to that kind of caliber that Florida A&M is at. And if they really want to win this game, they're going to have to hit them in the weakness, which only is they just haven't seen a field. They haven't been practicing as much. But for Florida A&M, that's not going to be anything at all. So I do see them winning this game, not by a wide margin as a lot of people would expect them to think, because even without this bye week, they've been kind of having some close games. You look at that MEAC SWAC challenge, only winning by 1 point. You look at them playing against South Carolina State, only winning by 4 points. Then they play Miami, which is just, out of the way, and then they play Troy. But you're looking at these HBCU teams, some of them proving to be really, really tough competition. And now you're about to go into Alabama State, who doesn't have the kind of players that you have, but they are going to be able to bring that pressure that these other teams have been putting on them. We're looking at a Kansas Chiefs situation. Yes, we know that they're the better team, that they have the better quarterback, and that they have the better players. But if Alabama State can pinpoint on those weaknesses, which is basically looking at Florida A&M's quarterback, that he hasn't passed the ball in a while, maybe he'll be out of circuit. We're probably looking at a first quarter where it may not be more than 10 points allowed by Alabama State. Florida A&M has to get back in that groove, and they have to use that first quarter possibly as one of their practice reps. Make sure that they're getting back into the rhythm of what it's like to be actually on the field. But once they get into that rhythm, Alabama State has to stay on their toes, making sure that they do not run through them. But we all know that they're going to air this out. Florida A&M loves to pass down the field. They love to march down the field, and we know that they can do it. So this could be a winnable game, but I don't want anybody to think that this is an easy game. But I do believe we will have the same pick this week, and Florida A&M will prove to be triumphant.
I love it. I love it. So let's get into our official quick picks. So it's going to be 14 total games for this weekend. So last week I was 9-2. So I was wrong on Grambling and Prairie View, unfortunately, but those things happen. And then you have Tennessee State and Charleston Southern. Tennessee State ultimately won against Charleston Southern. So very proud of them. And like I said last week, if they win, they win. I'm rooting for Tennessee State. I want Eddie George to be successful. I want Tennessee State to be successful. So if that's a loss for me, that's a loss for me. I am perfectly fine with that. Arielle, you were 8-3. I think we both did really good. All right. Now, granted, you could have been 9-2. Okay. You could have been 9-2 because we both got Grambling Prairie View wrong, and we got Tennessee State, Charleston Southern wrong. But the reason why you're 8-3 is because you chose Hampton over William and Mary.
I stand by my decision. I have no regrets. I have no regrets. You got to stand in the mess that you put yourself in. Hampton, love you down. Don't love you when we do play against you for homecoming. Have mercy, please. But I stand by my picks. It is what it is. It's okay. One of these days we'll flip, and I'll be on top and you'll be underneath me. It's just not today. Just not today.
I just want to say, I got you. I understand. William & Mary beat Hampton 49-7. William & Mary's really good. I'm telling you that William & Mary, they are a really good FCS program. God bless Hampton. God bless North Carolina A&T. Come on, okay? Come home. Just play these games. Listen, if A&T and Hampton, they're probably not coming back, and that's okay. Maybe Hampton comes back. But listen, if they were to come back, you might still play William & Mary, but we won't even be worried about the game. And we'll probably pick against you. I mean, but when we get to like the MEAC Celebration Bowl, it'll be fun. You know what I mean? But you know, it is what it is. But we did well.
I don't think any team would be coming back. I think A&T would be forced back after a couple years, but I don't think any team would want to, come back willingly to the MEAC, depending on how the money's looking. And according to A&T, I guess it's looking kind of nice. So.
Yeah, and listen, talking to A&T alumni and hearing A&T alumni, listen, hey, it's bigger than football. You know, it's bigger than one man. You know what I'm saying? Like, so, hey, listen, I already know the dreams are deferred when it comes to that. Okay, dream deferred. All right, let's talk about the other MEAC games this week. South Carolina State versus Tennessee Tech. Who you got for this one?
I have South Carolina State. Surprisingly, like I said, I'm willing to risk it all. But just looking at South Carolina State of who they played, them playing against Florida A&M, the Citadel, and playing against Georgia Southern and A&T, a lot of them bigger teams, better teams, but they have proven their worth and they have stuck by them besides Georgia Southern. I believe that this team has a lot of grit. And listen, this man is finding his ground. There's nothing that you can put against Berry that he's just not going to throw against you. So I have a lot of faith in them that they're going to come with the same kind of intensity, that this game is not going to be a blowout game, but they're going to play like some of the competition that Tennessee Tech has played, which they have proved dominant in some of the games, but other games they could have been better. Of course, when they played Georgia, then you look at them when they played Tennessee State and when they played against Gardner-Webb. You have some of those teams that aren't up to their caliber but are above them, but they're not playing as close to games. They're not playing within the margin of where they can win or not, just like how South Carolina State is doing. So I'd rather take the team that can close the margin, that can prove the possibility of having a major upset, than a team that has lost a couple of games, that has lost 2 games and decisively has lost and hasn't been able to prove their worth coming back into the second half. So I think South Carolina State, they do have some competition on their hands, but I do think this is a winnable game for them.
So real quick, let me say this. I'm picking South Carolina State as well, but listen, we don't have a sponsor for HBCU Post Radio this week, and I'm very careful with everything that I say, regardless. But I was very iffy in saying what I am about to say with a sponsor, because we had the greatest sponsorship at that point. Mm-hmm. It was a lot of people. And I think I did say it, but like I ended up taking it out because I was like, But like, it's a lot of people that are like, oh, Berry, he's a good coach, but he can't beat those white schools. He beat the Citadel for his first win at South Carolina State. If he beat Tennessee Tech, which is a predominantly white institution, okay? it wasn't one of the 100 HBCUs that gained the designation in the Higher Education Act of 1965, okay? It wasn't one of them. If he beats Tennessee Tech, all y'all got to eat y'all's words. All y'all got to eat them. He is a good coach. And all of those narratives about him, and if he loses, I still believe what I believe. Berry is a good coach. People lose games. That's the thing I hate when it comes to sports. People lose games. Coaches lose games. But like, because I understand that there's a sample size. Like if we have a Berry that is playing against non-HBCUs and he's only won 1 game out of the 10 he's played, that's a data set. All right, I'm not that great at math, but that's a data set. And we can say, okay, looking at this data set from a simplistic point of view, he's won 1 out of those 10 games. He's playing a non-HBCU. Is it a resource deficit or is it a coaching deficit? Could he have done better? Fine, right? But we're talking about the fact that he in the SIC he didn't really play a lot of PWIs, and he went to the playoffs. That Wingate game was what it was. That was the first year, and I don't think that Benedict played all that badly. And you have a Lenore Ryan that they competed against, and I've said this is consistently, played well against them. But people leaving that game, a lot of folks were saying, well, I don't think Chennisberry can beat white coaches. I don't think Chennisberry can beat PWIs. I just think that is asinine because at the end of the day, Chennisberry is a good coach. And what makes him great, and I'll be quiet of this and move on, what makes him great is he was an offensive lineman. They literally, I just looked on Twitter, they just signed an offensive lineman for next year's class. Chennisberry is going to have a good offensive line for sure, and he knows how to coach them and get them right, and he's going to have a good defensive line. Just wait till year 2 for South Carolina State. They're going to be tough. They're going to be tough. Just wait on it. So I just think that this notion that, oh, Chennisberry, you can't beat these white schools. His first win at South Carolina State was against the Citadel. I just had to say that. And I've not seen that. I've not seen that take. I've not seen a lot of HBCU football takes, honestly. It's election season, okay? That's what I've been focused on. But I'm just saying that was a narrative. Well, him coming out of Benedict, he didn't beat Lenore Ryan, he didn't beat Wingate, he beat the Citadel. And if he beat Tennessee Tech, we don't need to hear that again. I don't care if he go to the playoffs and North Dakota State beat him 100-0. I better not hear nobody say nothing except, Coach, got to do better next year. Because these narratives got to stop. They got to stop. But that's all I have to say, Arielle. That's all I got to say.
I had to get that off your chest. We don't have any sponsors this week, so who really going to try you?
And I don't think I'm saying anything that's not sponsor friendly, but you know how I can get sometimes. You know what I'm saying? Where it's like, yeah, they got it, you know what I'm saying? But like, I had to say that. All right, I had to say that. But Lincoln University of Pennsylvania, and this is not the Lincoln University of California. This is Lincoln University of Pennsylvania, HBCU, first degree granting HBCU. We got to make sure we put that in there. Historic, okay? Thurgood Marshall's HBCU, all right? Okay. So we can't play with Lincoln University of Pennsylvania. They make things happen. But they are playing Morgan State for Morgan State's homecoming. So, Arielle, who you got for this game?
I have Morgan State, which is rare. Actually, I think it's my first time actually saying that this whole season. I have Morgan State. They have my pick. That is crazy. Morgan State has proven time and time again that they are showing some kind of progression when it comes to their offense. Not saying Smith isn't a bad quarterback, but these last couple of games, I believe they could have been winnable games besides playing Stony Brook and besides playing Lynchburg. When we see them against Hampton and Townsend, those are really close games that I feel like they could have pushed to the edge. But Morgan State, like I said, is his own Achilles heel. They really do have a good offense. They just have to learn how to manage that field properly. But this should be an easy game for them.
Yeah, Lincoln is traditionally a good team these past couple of years. They've actually struggled a bit in the CIAA. I think Morgan State wins this game. I wouldn't be shocked if Lincoln pulled it off. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, they got some guys. Like, I know they've struggled in Division 2. They got some guys though, so I won't be surprised. But Morgan gets one.
That's why I said Morgan. Listen, for them to have my pick, my first time picking them throughout this whole season, they better not disappoint me because I know where I stand with them. They know where I stand with them. But this should be a game that should be an instant win. It really should. We'll see.
Okay, but Norfolk State versus Sacred Heart. Who you got?
Surprisingly, Norfolk State has been having a really good season. It has been proving tough competition, even when we saw them in the MEAC SWAC Challenge. I am not after this past week. I don't think Jalen Daniels has showed us anything that he isn't capable of. But I don't want them to sleep on Sacred Heart. They do have a really good quarterback, and when it does come, their passing game is exceptional. I think I'm going to stick MEAC, and I'm going to say Norfolk State. Surprisingly. I feel like Sacred Heart might prove an upset, but I'm going to say Norfolk State.
Okay, so I think this is going to be the first time this week that we're going to pick differently because I think Sacred Heart. I don't trust Norfolk State right now. I really don't. I just think Sacred Heart is gonna beat them. Because I it's primarily because I don't trust them right now. Dos Knobs is an amazing coach, but I don't know what to think about them. Like I just really don't know. Like I don't know if it's an identity thing. I just really don't know what to think about them right now. And I know you go against North Carolina Central, that's the best in the MEAC, but I don't know what to think about them. So because I don't know what to think about them, I think I'm gonna choose Sacred Heart. That's how I'm looking at it. At this point. So that's our first. We picked the same until this one.
This is the first time that I've actually went first and that you diverged into your own path. Which is
that's funny.
I don't know. We'll see if that's good luck or not. But yeah,
hilarious. Look, because I think I did choose William and Mary first. You chose Hampton, so you
yeah,
diverged to your own path on that one.
So like now we're flipping. Now like I chose, and then you're like, no. I'm like, okay. We got some new patterns in here.
Hilarious. So okay, let me ask you this. I want you to go first for this one too. All right. Delaware State versus St. Francis. This is Delaware State's homecoming. Who you got for this one?
I'm gonna go with the team. Like, this is not my pick, but with the team that I do know, when we're looking at Delaware State, they did beat Sacred Heart, but they lost against Wagner and they lost against Richmond. They lost against Campbell, but this last game against Campbell, it was a 3-point score. They could have won with a field goal, or they could have won with an extra touchdown. Delaware State, towards the end, is proving to be a really good team and a team that is providing some competition. When it does come to St. Francis, I don't know much about this team, but this team has had some pretty close wins and some pretty close losses. Definitely a blowout against East Michigan, but when playing against Kent State and playing against Connecticut, they don't look bad on paper, but I would have to see, quite frankly, what their players are like. Both of them don't really have good records right now, but just due to the past couple games that Delaware State could have pulled out a major win on, I guess I'm pulling for Delaware State.
Yeah, I think this is easy for me. Delaware State looks amazing right now. I think they're going to win. I honestly believe that they're going to win. They're going to get this out of conference victory. I'm not really that high on St. Francis. I mean, they beat Kent State, and that's great. But I mean, I'm not really high on them going into this game. I mean, they could win. That's fine. But I'm looking at Delaware State's improvements. Now, Delaware State has been looking, because you would think, oh, they played well against Hawaii, but they've come back down to earth. No, they've been looking great throughout the season. And then imagine if they beat Campbell. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
I think that they can build. And like I said, I think the misnomer is, oh, there's no moral victories. Or if you lose, you lose. You build from wins and losses. That's life. Like you learn from it. You build from it. It's not just, oh, we lost, so just forget the fact that we almost beat a team that probably everybody in HBCU football picked us to lose against. You know what I'm saying? Like there's something to build from that. So build from it. So I think that ultimately they will build from it. Then it's homecoming too. So ultimately I do think that they will build from it. So we're both choosing Delaware State for this one. So UAPB, let's get to the SWAC. So UAPB versus Alcorn. This is Alcorn State's homecoming. Who you got for this one?
I'm gonna be real upset if Alcorn doesn't win this. I really am. This should really be an under the rug game. Just, we're gonna sweep through it, have a good time, march right off. That's what it should be. That's what it should be, Alcorn. Let's ride. Let's ride. Please. Who you got?
I love how you did the Russell Wilson Bronco Nation. Let's ride.
Let's ride. Let's
ride. Brave Nation. Let's ride. You know what I'm saying? And then you got Russell Wilson roll to the bench, boy, because Justin Fields out there. Like
I just, and part of that I believe is majority of that I believe is Sean Payton, but that's a story for another day. That is a story for another day. But listen, Justin Fields is doing his a lot of rookies besides Bryce Young, unfortunately, and I hope he goes to a team that can utilize him and see the talents for what he's worth. You just can't be a number one pick and fail like that. But we're getting off topic here. Who?
Hey, I get us back on topic. Bryce Young ain't playing for UAPB. All right, Justin Fields and VAPB, all that would have been great. That would have been really great if they did. But no, they're not playing on this Saturday, and they going to Alcorn's homecoming. Alcorn homecoming is going to be turned. They're going to be making things happen. Alcorn is going to win this, and they're going to send their fans, alumni, students, community members home happy to cap off homecoming season for them. All right, so Texas Southern versus Virginia University of Lynchburg. Why did Texas Southern schedule them? Like I feel almost insulted that we have to pick this game. I honestly really do. I feel and Virginia University of Lynchburg, shout out to them, because I would never forget the fact that Arielle, and I think I'm pretty sure I told you this, I'm a basketball guy, and I was a basketball commentator at Fort Valley. Yes. The one football game I commentated, I was play-by-play because I could do color. I had to bring somebody else in to do color because that wasn't my thing at that point. I probably do color now, but not now. But not then. But I did play-by-play, and the one guy I did play-by-play for, Fort Valley loses to Virginia University of Lynchburg, okay? And then last year, they tried to get us again, like because Kevin Durham was injured. He tried to get us again. I'm like, man, listen, but we got him this time. But I got a lot of love for Virginia University of Lynchburg because they got my HBCU before. But I just think it is wild that these teams, they're like, hey, listen, it's homecoming. Let's schedule a team that we think we can beat. And they say, hey, either Lincoln of California or Virginia University of Lynchburg. I just think that's asinine to me. I'm sorry.
They're trying to build back up the confidence. They just need a win, Randall. That's all this is. We're back to Deion Sanders money games over here.
I mean, at this point, create a team like it's a video game. I mean, at this point, like stop playing. Like stop playing Virginia University of Lynchburg, man. Like Texas Southern is going. Can we agree with that? Texas Southern going to win?
Let's agree. We can agree. We were probably not to agree on these next couple teams, but we can agree.
Oh, you think so? Okay, let's see. Okay, so Jackson State versus Alabama A&M. Who you got?
We're both in agreement on Jackson State. I hope so.
Okay.
Yeah. The way you looked at me, it was just like, what is she about to say? I know I've been giving long analytics for each team, but I mean, when we get to the SWAC, there's not much to prove here. Like, come on now. Now, I will say Jackson State does kind of scare me a little bit because they can be iffy and play when they want to play. And when I say play when they want to play, I mean more of like self-destruct when it comes into all the penalties, especially when it comes to defensive holding or when it comes to offensive pass interference. Like there are a lot of flags when it comes to Jackson State. Anything can happen that could prevent them from winning. But just overall, Jackson State is the better team of Alabama A&M, and this should be a win for them.
Yeah, I just for me, Jackson State's gonna win this game. I think Jackson State is looking really good, and I'm very proud of them. I think they're rounding into form. I like what I saw against in their first game. I forgot who do they play. I honestly forgot who they played. All I know is quarterback's name is General Booty. Who they play?
You talking about Jackson State?
Yeah, they played General Booty and blank.
Oh, hold on. Yeah, because they were
and blank.
They were talking about his name on ESPN. You know, parents, please.
You said parents, please.
Yeah, like let's think about what you want to name your kids. All right.
Hey, listen. And I don't know the chronology, like the story behind it. It might be that might be a name that has some meaning. So I'm not gonna be his name, but it is like General Booty. He's okay quarterback. He okay. Yeah, University of Louisiana Monroe, I think. Yeah, University of Louisiana Monroe. All right, Arielle. So Southern versus Nichols. Who you got for this one?
Listen, I know I said I'm willing to risk my picks, but like, not risk them too much. You feel me? I'm going to go Southern. And, you know, Black people, you know. Go ahead, bro. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Why you choose? Why would you Southern?
What? What is wrong with Southern? What is wrong with Southern in this game?
Their offense, like to me, that offense, like hey, listen, it's not this. I don't think it's a bad pick. I don't trust the offense. I don't trust the offense.
You trust Nichols over Southern?
Yep, I do. I'm picking Nichols. At this point, I pick Josh Nichols over Southern. Say that much. like right as of right now, you know.
Oh, you play too much. You play too much. Listen, on to this Avatar State type school over here that Prairie View is about to play.
Okay. Oh, now, like, listen, Prairie versus Incarnate Ward. I'll pick first here. Incarnate Ward. That's like Cam Ward came from Incarnate Ward. So I mean, like, listen, you see the players that they bringing in and producing. Incarnate Ward gonna be Prairie View for sure.
I'm, honest. I've never heard of this team. They sound like
they're contenders. Like they're traditionally are like contenders. Like honestly, so like we look at Cam Ward 2020 2021. He played at University of Incarnate Ward. And of course, he's transferred to Washington State, and now he's at Miami. And he's doing this thing. Like they're really good. Like they've had they got players that's been in the NFL. Like I think they got guys in the NFL now. They got Justin Andre. They got Taylor Grimes. They got guys that are really tough. Like they've made the playoffs. They made the playoffs. They lost North Dakota State 2022. I actually watched the game. They lost 32-35 to Norfolk State in 2022. That was around the time of Christmas, of course, in the playoffs. That was a crazy game. Like they're traditionally really good. So for me, and I know that I've not been paying attention to them as much, but I'm picking Incarnate Ward just off the strength that they know how to score. I mean, the fact you had a Cam Ward that came through recently, there's some other Cam Wards that's in that locker room. Okay? There's some other ones in there. So I'm choosing Incarnate Ward to beat Prairie View for sure.
I'm going to trust and lean on you, Randall. And if you lead me astray, we're going to have some problems next week.
Listen, I probably will lead you astray. Listen, I probably would. I probably would.
Not you trying to set me up, man.
I'm not trying to set you up. They're 2-2. They beat University of Northern Colorado. They lost to South Dakota State 24-45. They got 24 points in South Dakota State. They lost to Southern Illinois University 35-28, and they're ranked number 8. They beat Northern Arizona University 38-14 on last week. All right, this is a team that they're 2-2. You play South Dakota State early in the season. I like it.
Moving on.
29 points per game. The opponents scored 25 passing yards, 275 passing yards per game. And they give it up 260. But do we really think after the game that Prairie View had against Grambling, do we really think that Prairie View going to throw for 260 yards and they're going to rush for 204? Because that's what University of Incarnate Ward gives up. I don't think that Prairie View is gonna rush for 204 or around 204. Nor do I think they're gonna pass for 260, and I don't think they're gonna match in University of Incarnate Ward that's throwing for 275. I personally don't believe that. That just looking at the stats for the season. And then, to be honest, I would just stop that Cam Ward play there. That's why I would have stopped that. If Cam Ward believe in him, I believe in him.
I just, you know me. I just always need a little bit more. But you got me. So
Cam Ward got you too. Say that much. Cam Ward said, "Trust me." Incarnate Ward's the one.
Go ahead.
That's his first school. Listen, they thought Shadur Sanders was on the quarterback that played the FCS and with FBS and Ken's killing it. No, Cam Ward too. Cam Ward for the Heisman to me.
All right. Really?
Yeah, for me. Can't work for the Heisman for me. For right now. For right now. For right
Okay.
now. For right now. But I want to see how Colorado does, because if Colorado ends up doing better than we all anticipated, Travis Hunter for sure, 1,000% Travis Hunter. But to me, Cam Ward tough. Cam Ward tough. From University of Incarnate Ward. Isn't it crazy? His last name's Ward, and he played at University of Incarnate Ward. Isn't that crazy?
You're on a tangent now. You're on a tangent. He's going to get us. Go to your Big South CAA picks, please.
I thought I always thought I was interesting. I'm like, wow, like that's God's timing, man. Like that's perfect timing, like Shador said. I'm telling you. All right, so North Carolina A&T versus Richmond. So who you got here?
I don't even know why you asked me these kinds of questions, bro. I don't know why you asked me these kinds of questions.
Because you have an A&T painting behind you.
We're not looking at that right now. We're not focused on that right now because we all know what the season is looking like for them. They cannot be trusted, and that's okay. It's Richmond. It's Richmond. We're going for Richmond. This is one of, I'm sorry, A&T. This is just one of those easy games. Sheesh, man.
I agree. I agree that Richmond's gonna win. Yeah.
I'm tired of losing. I don't know what this life is like, Randall. It's hard out here.
Man, y'all got a new chancellor. Y'all know what to do. You're an alumni. Get your alumni together and tell them to come back home. And think about it, is like, well, like they're telling us to come back home. I mean, we're losing to HBCU teams too. Yeah, but the losing to be more fun at the very least.
Not more fun, Randall. It's not fun losing regardless.
It would be at the very least, because A&T lost like 26 straight games, but y'all was having fun doing it. Like back in the day before Broadway got there, before Broadway and Sean Gibbs got there from Grambling. You know what I'm saying? So I mean,
enjoys losing. Only you.
No, but I was saying, but at least it'll be fun. You're at the tailgates. You're seeing your friends. Because the thing about it is, Fort Valley lost in 2018. We lost to Virginia University at Lynchburg in the only football game I've called in my career. But guess what? I had a lot of fun that season because I saw a lot of folks that I knew from other schools. I saw folks I was HBCU All-Stars with. Like I had fun during homecoming. So it's like it was fun. If you're gonna lose, have fun doing it. That's all I'm saying. You know? That's all I'm saying. And at the very least, it's like, well, we lost this year, but next year we're going to Celebration Bowl. Now there's not no Celebration Bowl. Yeah, so it's like
whatever, bro. Whatever, man.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so I'm interested in this pick here. Hampton versus Rhode Island. Who you got for this one?
Listen, I was just looking at Rhode Island, and this linebacker, Cole Brockwell, I am so scared for Hampton's quarterback. I am truly scared. This man looks scary. Already 40 tackles on the season. That's crazy. This man is dodging. He's going to push off the center and come right through.
Hey, listen, Cole Brockwell, 40 tackles on the year. I bet he has 60 next week.
Exactly.
I bet his total good 65. Okay.
Hampton's not. I mean, just looking at them defensively, Rhode Island could run it up. Offensively, they put in points on the board. There's still work that they could do, but him alone just makes me choose Rhode Island. Honestly, I don't think Hampton just might want to finish the game as quick as possible. That man is coming for Zealous immediately. Oh gosh.
Yeah. Rhode Island's gonna win this game. They're gonna win this game decisively, and unfortunately. But listen, Hampton, come on home. Come on home. That's all I got to say.
A&T will come home before Hampton. At least Hampton is winning games. There's so much shade here right now, but sometimes you got to hear the tough things, Randall. Sometimes you got to know when to hold them, know when to fold them, know when to walk away, and know when to run.
Hampton, I'm telling you, I can see just in my mind Hampton being in the Celebration Bowl. I can just see it. I can see it. My gosh, why'd they leave? Why'd y'all leave? And then they switch to other like, because it's not like, okay, well, the conference we were in is just so superior. Okay. No, the Big South started tripping, then they went to another. Hampton, come back. Come back, Hampton. At this point, come back. Tennessee State versus Lindenwood. Okay, I picked against Tennessee State, but who you got? I picked these in last week. Who you got?
Are you picking them again this week?
I picked against them last week. I'm picking them this week for sure.
Really?
I think Lindenwood's beatable. I think they're beatable. I just don't like some of what I see on Tennessee State's offense. I just think that's something that needs to be cleaned up. I think the defense, even with them losing Monroe Beard and Terrell Allen, who were their two big defensive stars last year, and I mean, and then you have, I believe, I think because I always get it mixed up. I believe that was because I did coverage on it, but both, and let me make sure I get this right. Buck Buchanan, because that's big to me that you have a Buck Buchanan award winner that was on that Tennessee State team that really like vouches for the fact, and that was Terrell Allen that won it, that vouches for the fact that defense was like that. Terrell Allen, Buck Buchanan award winner, walks out that door. Monroe Beard, who was doing his thing, was getting to the quarterback, disrupting other offenses. They lead that program, and the defense still pretty much holds up. And they held Charleston Southern to a small amount of points. Although I know Charleston Southern isn't just like a Incarnate Ward type scoring threat, but I think that Tennessee State will do well. I think that Eddie George has a great defense. I just think that the offense, I'm just not sold on the offense. And for me, and I said this last week, I just believe that for me, and I'm going to check what I'm saying just to make sure, I'm going to double check it. But I know that Eddie George is a running back. So I think that his philosophy is running, we're going to run the ball. And that's fine. I just think that, especially in the OVC Big South or the Big South OVC, I need to see a diversity. And I just don't think I'm seeing enough of that against those opponents, because Draylon Ellis did well against he did well against Mississippi Valley. I'm pretty sure he'll probably do well, put up good numbers against Howard when they play Howard. But I want to see more diversity from that offense. I just feel like I'm not seeing it. But I mean, they did what they were supposed to do. Defense held up. They beat Charleston Southern, gave Gardenia, So I think they win this game, and we'll see what happens after that, for me.
Defensively, I'm not seeing anything that would prove that Lindenwood would win this game. So I don't think there's going to be anything holding Tennessee State back. It's just making sure that they could score, because Lindenwood is going to score on you. And if you let them, and if you don't catch them early, they can run away with the ball. So this should be a good win. I'm not going to say easy win, but a good win for Tennessee State, as long as they're able to score and match them on each play. But I don't see anything defensively on Lindenwood that would prevent them for not having this W.
Now, I want to say this before we go, all right? This is what I'm talking about here, all right? So peep this. Draylon Ellis, 12 or 24 passing, threw for 1 touchdown, but 105 yards. Threw for 105 yards. Now, rushing, which is why, this is what I'm saying is wild, those offense. Tennessee State rushed for a net of 101 yards. So you throw for 105. You rush for 101 and 104. You lost 3 yards. Net is 101 rushing yards. But the quarterback, the quarterback of Charleston Southern, Caleb Jackson, 4 for 12, 90 yards passing. Now they rushed for 219. They gained 262 yards. They rushed for 219 net yards because they lost 43. So no rushing touchdowns, no passing touchdowns. To me, that says to me that the defense is doing what needs to be done, or Charles Southern is a horrible offensive team. That to me. Now, University of Arkansas Pine Bluff dropped 28 on Tennessee State. I don't know why and how that happened. And of course, North Dakota State ran off on them, 3-52. But these last two games showed me that Tennessee State got some defense stuff. They got some stuff cooking on defense. But offense, they got to figure. Like Eddie George, if he is there next year, I'm not saying he's going to get fired. I'm saying he might get promoted. If they do well, he might get another position. Like, hey, we want to get you over here. If he is there next year, which I hope he is, and I think he probably will be, they got to, because Traylon Nelson is going to probably be leaving because he's a senior now. They got to get a quarterback. They tried to get North Dakota State's offensive coordinator. But you know what I thought about Arielle? They tried to get North Dakota State's offensive coordinator. He came on staff, then he left and went to Iowa State. But my thing is that he probably was going to bring the same philosophy that Eddie George likes. They're going to be running the ball all the time. Because what does North Dakota State do? They run the ball all the time. If you don't go get listen, go get Eric Bieniemy or somebody, like see if he'll come. Because y'all can't do 105 yards, man. I'm sorry, you can't do 105 yards. That can't happen. Just to me, that can't happen.
We're going to see this weekend, but those are the picks. Some controversial picks, but those are the picks.
They're the picks. Listen, they're the picks. I want to see what happens. I'm really focused on this Tennessee State game because I like this offense. I don't know. I say this one last thing before we go. I really believe that Tennessee State, although they did lose North Dakota State, as of right now, that we don't hold that against them. If they win OVC Big South, they're gonna get in the playoffs. That's a tall order. They can get in the playoffs. North Dakota State, that's North Dakota State. You know what I'm saying? They almost beat Colorado. And Colorado's actually looking pretty good now. You know what I mean? So, that's North Dakota State. I think that this team could possibly be a team, just based on the defense, that gets to the playoffs. But if they can't score, we are in for one. The games, I mean, you win. But the games can't be 14-17, 13-9 if you try to get into the playoffs. That's all I'm saying. But, have at it. Have at it. First Take is coming up soon. When Stephen A. Smith says it to him, they'll listen.
Don't do that.
Stephen A. Smith be like, guys, what is this? Like, are you all smoking crack? He say something like that. I'll say I respect. I love Tennessee State. They'll be like, you know what? We need to throw the ball more. Like, watch what I tell you. Anyway, but Arielle, that is it for the show on today. Where can we find you on social media?
You can find me on Instagram at __.modernDayAri, or put me on the hot seat on X, formerly known as Twitter, as @ScreeRe__, or follow me on my new website at ariellekilgore.canva.com.
I love it. You listen to HBCU Pulse Radio.
Like what you hear?
Yeah.
Subscribe to HBCU Pulse Radio on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Also, head to hbcupulse.com to stay up to date on what's going on in the HBCU community. Thank you for listening to HBCU Pulse Radio.